Bright start to the day on Sunday, and it will still feel fairly warm in the sunshine as the winds are staying quite light, really. It's quite a different story from the north to the south by the time we get to Sunday, as this wet weather will push into parts of northern England by the end of Sunday afternoon. There could be some localised flooding and travel disruption due to this rainfall, as it will persist for a number of days, and it will be a slightly cooler day as well, with more in the way of rain on Sunday.
Looks like things are heating up.
Watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Would you have Harry back with open arms? And this is Ian. Hi, Ian. Harry is unfortunately not well. He's an emotional wreck. Ian, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I remember when I was younger, queuing up for hours for West Ham tickets. I'm that sad. But at least I got the ticket. It was my ticket. They knew it was me, and there were no touts involved. It's Forever says Harry can stay away. He was so quick to condemn this country as racist and to trash the Queen and royal family's reputations. He should be banished and his titles removed. He has not earned the right to call himself anything with a royal title. Ooh, passionate. Since moving to the US with Meghan, the American dream has had a number of issues for him, I think it's fair to say. But if Harry was to return, would he be welcome? And could he make it up with William? Look, if Oasis, sorry I said the O word, have done it, can William and Harry?
Well, I think it's going to present a lot of challenges. I mean, I've got to be clear here. When it comes to reconciliation, if it's possible, obviously, to mend the rift with William, clearly that is to be welcomed. But as for Harry returning, what precisely would that mean? What precisely would Harry want? Because if it is in any sense a return to royal duties, you really got to be very, very careful with what you're dealing with. As far as the royal family are concerned, for goodness sake, reconciliation, yes, but actual work as a senior working royal is not, in my opinion.
So I always think it's quite funny listening to serious people talk seriously about the royals, because it's not that serious, a lot of it. But actually, I think where I'm fascinated by them is that we can sort of see a bit of ourselves as a society and as individuals.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, I'm Ellie Costello alongside Ben Leo, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Very good morning to you. Great to have your company this morning, and we have an action-packed show. Today, our top panel is Lewis Oakley and Esther Stanhope.
Have a look at what we're up against. The journalists are obsessed with who is going to be the next Conservative leader. And the truth is, I don't give a damn who the next leader of the Conservative Party is.
Nigel Farage dubs the Tory brand bust and broken. We'll be crossing live to Birmingham for day 2 of the Reform Party conference.
And today marks 80 years since Operation Market Garden, where paratroopers in the Netherlands launched a daring offensive against Germany in World War II. Our man on the ground, Charlie Peters, is there for us.
Some 700 paratroopers from 8 different nations will jump here at Ginkelheath in the Netherlands to commemorate Operation Market Garden, one of the most audacious missions in British military history.
We'll be talking to Dr. Ross Perry, the go-to mole expert in the UK. He's going to be sharing just why it's so important to get your skin checked after a summer holiday.
And we'll meet the ex-fiancé of Katie Price, the reality TV star, who will tell us all about her latest endeavours in the reality world, including why he thinks she needs to lay off the selfies.
I am so pleased that we are going to Arnhem today, and we've got Charlie Peters there on the ground for us in the Netherlands, because it is incredible what those brave men did on this very day 80 years ago, landing on a bridge surrounded by Germans, ultimately being overwhelmed, but they paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah, you, of course, did some brilliant D-Day reporting, and it's being dubbed the alternative D-Day, which the Allies lost, didn't they? They lost the battle.
Well, this didn't have a happy ending. You know, this was not a victory, it was a defeat. But it's so important to remember the defeats as well, because those are the men that ultimately laid down their lives for the freedoms that we have today.
Yeah, Charlie
so it's
Peters.
Really important.
Charlie Peters will be live with us. Also, we'll be going live to Birmingham, where Nigel Farage, Rupert Lowe, Lee Anderson, all the Reform boys, they're at the party conference, the Autumn Conference, where we have some very funny clips, including Lee Anderson tearing up the BBC licence fee live on stage.
Yeah, it's been very performative, hasn't it, so far on day one of the Reform Conference? We were saying it's quite American.
Yes, lots of sort of balloons coming from the ceilings, lots of decorations, and Nigel Farage kicking off his speech. I think we have a clip talking about his spectacles and saying, these don't cost £2 a piece.
Yeah, they know exactly what to do, don't they? So we're going to have all of the details from day 2 of the conference today. But before we do anything else, Sophie Reaper has your news headlines.
Thank you, Ellie. It's 3 minutes past 10 and these are your latest GB News headlines. Today is day 2 of the Reform Conference in Birmingham, with speeches expected from senior members of the party. Last night, the party's leader, Nigel Farage, told supporters that he believes Reform can win the next general election, given the number of people that agree with their principles. He also explained what drove him to stand as Clacton's MP once the general election was called earlier this year.
At almost every level, we'd been betrayed. And then I thought about what was happening on our streets. And frankly, I thought to myself, Britain is broken. And then I couldn't help it. Well, if Britain is broken, then logically, Britain needs reform.
Mr Farage will also give the farewell address later this afternoon. Angela Rayner has announced plans to make irreversible changes to devolution laws across the entire north of England. Speaking ahead of her speech at the Labour Party conference tomorrow, the Deputy PM has committed to handing power back to areas such as Lancashire, Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire. She also said that the new government will harness potential in the economy in order to allow innovation and growth to bloom in every part of the country. This year marks the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden and the Battle of Arnhem. Celebrations in the Netherlands this weekend will commemorate 80 years since 1,900 Allied troops parachuted into the then-occupied country with the aim of recapturing the bridges of Arnhem. Throughout the morning, the contemporary equivalents of those men are recreating the drop at Ginkle Heath in Ada, jumping from an aircraft into the same place our troops would have landed 8 decades ago. A snap poll will open today as members of the National Education Union will vote on pay and funding. Teachers and education professionals in the UK will have until the 30th of September to either accept or reject the government's offer of a 5.5% pay rise. This comes after Chancellor Rachel Reeves agreed in full to follow the recommendations of the School Teachers Review body. The Met Office has issued a further weather warning with heavy rain and thunderstorms forecast for the rest of the weekend. The alert will remain in place throughout today, covering Wales, the Midlands, the South West and parts of the South East. The forecaster has warned that people should expect damage to buildings as a result of lightning strikes, disruption to public transport and flooding, all within the affected areas. And tonight, Anthony Joshua will challenge Daniel Dubois for the IBF World Heavyweight title at a sold-out Wembley Stadium. The all-British fight will see Joshua try to take the title from Dubois in an attempt to join the likes of Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield by becoming a 3-time world heavyweight champion. Things remained relatively calm at the weigh-in yesterday, although both fighters have said they will do whatever it takes to win. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophie, and welcome to Saturday Morning Live. Now, thousands of people have gathered in the Netherlands to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Allied operation to take the bridge at Arnhem. It was dubbed Operation Market Garden.
The British, Dutch and Polish paratroopers marched to honour the forces who fought a week-long bloody battle to try and capture the bridge. But almost 2,000 Allied troops tragically lost their lives in an ultimately futile effort. We're now joined by GBNews reporter Charlie Peters, who's on the ground in the Netherlands for the latest. Good morning, Charlie. Thanks for joining us. A real honour for you to be there and indeed for us and the viewers to hear about this occasion.
Yes, it's been an extraordinary morning so far. Hundreds of paratroopers from 8 NATO countries making a drop to replicate the heroic efforts of the thousands, tens of thousands of airborne forces who landed on the opening days of Operation Market Garden in September 1944. And I've just been told that of the 90-strong contingent of members of the British airborne forces that dropped, it includes the Chief of General Staff, the most senior member of the British Army, Sir Rowley Walker, was a part of that jump. Also involved was the General Officer Commanding of 1 Division, the Commander of the Field Army, and also the Brigade Commander of 16 Air Assault Brigade, which is the air of the forces, the 1st Airborne Division that fought 80 years ago this week in that heroic but ultimately futile effort to hold a bridge too far in Arnhem. We've also had all 4 commanding officers of the 4 parachute regiments in the British Army. 1, 2 and 3 para are regular, 4 para are reservists. They cover the but they're ready to deploy anywhere in the world at very short notice. They are held at very high readiness. But today they have the great honour of jumping 8 miles from Arnhem, where British forces jumped 80 years ago to start that campaign, that march towards the 12 bridges they needed to hold. Now, as I said, it didn't work out. They didn't achieve their objective. They weren't able to establish that bridgehead into northern Germany, which Field Army Monty wanted to get. He wanted to bypass the Siegfried Line and the defences further south along the border with France and Germany. But it was a spectacular failure. There were catastrophic logistics errors, intelligence failures, potentially also the egomania of senior officers and their hubris of wanting to be the ones that won the war. They wanted to be responsible for finding a back door to Berlin. It didn't work out, but it did devastate German forces in this area. It did start the liberation of the Netherlands, and it was part of an ultimately successful continued attempt to liberate Europe. It's worth noting, Ben and Ellie, that in the time that we've been thinking about this commemoration, 80 years since Operation Market Garden, many of the forces that were fighting in that operation, the Garden part of it was a ground operation. That's 30 Corps from the British Armoured Division. They were coming up from Normandy. Now, earlier this year, we commemorated D-Day on June the 6th, 80 years since the start of the liberation of Normandy, France and the rest of Europe. Think about everything you've done since the celebration of the 6th of June. Think about elections, friends, trips with your family. Think about everything you've done. In that entire time between now and then, 80 years ago, those men were fighting desperately to get to where I am now, up to the Netherlands, to establish a link with those airborne forces who had put down an aerial armada, a corridor for their men, their colleagues in tanks to follow. They fought desperately, but the brave men of 2 para who held the north side of that bridge too far in Arnhem, now named the commander of 2 para, they couldn't hold out long enough for those to arrive. They were meant to be liberated and supported and relieved within just 48 hours, but they had to hold on for several more. Many of the British prisoners of war who were captured not eaten for 4 days. But there is a grand ceremony taking place today, a display, but also a commemoration. This is an opportunity for forces to replicate the actions that their forefathers took 80 years ago. And it's also an opportunity for the Dutch and allies who've gathered here to remember those who fell in that tragic but heroic conflict and that great attempt to push into northern Germany.
Charlie, I'm so glad that you've drawn those parallels to D-Day, because we celebrated the 80-year anniversary, and I say celebrate because it was a victory there. It was this great show of bravery and courage, but it was a victory. But it is so important also to talk about the stories of defeat and to talk about the futile efforts, because it doesn't make it any less courageous. It is the ultimate sacrifice, isn't it, for our freedoms, and that is so, so important that we remember these brave men who ultimately lay down their lives for us.
Yes, it was a tremendous sacrifice. And I've just been speaking to several members of 16 Air Assault Brigade in the background here. We heard from Major Philpott from the Royal Horse Artillery, the brigade's airborne artillery, just a moment ago. And he was telling me, along with some of his colleagues, that every single paratrooper in the brigade is desperate to be part of this jump. They have so many battle honours, from Goose Green in the Falklands to conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan and several others between them. But they always look to Arnhem. This ultimate display of heroism from the Parachute Regiment embodies the grit, determination, daring spirits and unyielding commitment to victory that they have. They always look back to this moment, even though it didn't end with the success that they wanted. The subsequent objective wasn't achieved. They didn't get both sides of the bridge. This, they say, demonstrates the characteristics and the traits they want to see in paratroopers: always a little further, always fighting to the end. They gave their final radio signal: out of ammunition, God save the King. They did not surrender, they fought to the end, and ultimately British forces were able to push through into Germany through other means.
OK, Charlie Peters, thank you. On the ground in the Netherlands, thank you. We'll touch base again throughout the show. A message from Cynthia Williams, who's a GB News member, who says, well done to GB News for the Arnhem coverage, and thank you for giving us the brilliant Charlie Peters. He's reporting, or has reported, from Israel. He's done work on the grooming gangs, and now this fantastic informative piece on Arnhem. Time to remember those heroes who gave us our freedoms.
Yeah, so many of you getting in touch on this morning. Charlie Peters is the very best, says Judith. And John says, seeing these things on GB News, the only TV station to be covering the parachute jumps live on air. Excellent. Do keep those thoughts coming in for those brave heroes that ultimately paid the ultimate sacrifice 80 years ago today.
OK, let's move on, because the big story over the past couple of days from the Reform UK front, of course, is the conference kicking off in...
the biggest ever.
Birmingham, yeah. Tom Harwood said that yesterday. It's the biggest ever, and I thought, isn't it the only one ever? But, of course, they have been running for a couple of years.
They have been running,
now.
yeah, but they had, obviously, a very successful general election campaign. So now the pressure's going to be on building that momentum.
Yeah, so lots of speeches yesterday from the likes of the leader himself, Nigel Farage. And earlier, Mr Farage took aim at the Prime Minister over the cash for clothes scandal with a rather... well, let me show you. Take a look.
Yeah.
Do you like them? Very expensive. But guess what? I bought them myself. How about that?
Well, we're joined now by broadcaster and author Lewis Oakley and the broadcaster Esther Stanhope. Really good to see you both this morning. And just taking a look at that clip from Nigel Farage, he certainly knows how to play to his audience, doesn't he, Esther?
He absolutely is the #1 opportunist. He takes any topical story and turns it round so he can show off, because he is a good showman. And I do think that the price of those glasses is a very important talking point.
£2 a pop?
More than £2,000 for a pair of glasses.
Where is he getting them from?
That's extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
Exactly. So, look, I think Nigel Farage, he's an opportunist. He wants everything to be bigger and better and bolder, and they've doubled the price of the tickets for the Reform Party conference. They've got 70,000 members. He is riding on a wave, and right now, Labour is not looking good in public opinion, is it?
No.
It's not doing too well.
Yeah, it's come at the exact right time in the Reform conference, Lewis Oakley, with all the alleged blunders Labour are making.
Yeah, it has. And I think that even just in that clip, that kind of being comical on stage, that's what the appeal is of him and of that party. You wouldn't see Starmer mocking another politician in that way. And I think that people like that. They like that kind of down the pub, I could have a drink with him, and I think that that's one of the reasons they're doing well. Obviously, Labour is not doing really well, but then could they really be expected to do well? I think a lot of people, they got a massive amount of seats, but I think everyone forgets, like, it wasn't a landslide as much as a sinkhole. It was because Reform and the Tories sort of split that vote. They had a lower vote share than with Jeremy Corbyn, so they were never going to be that popular. So, yeah, I mean, great time to have your conference as it's all imploding around you. When
we had Lee Anderson, I'm not sure if we've got the clip, but Lee Anderson taking to the stage for his speech, and he kicked it off by tearing up the BBC licence fee as a reminder letter, I think, which Lee received, and he tore it up live on stage before kicking off his speech. Esther?
Yes, I mean, look, any sort of theatrics I totally approve of, because I care about stagecraft, you know, and it's a stunt, isn't it? They're full of gimmicks, they're full of stunts, they kind of they choreograph their conference speeches, and like the BBC licence, oh, this is going to be another hot potato. The BBC are not in good shape, and we're going to be talking about you know, scandals today in the show as well. But I mean, the BBC licence is just now, something's got to be done about it.
But I do think, stunts aside, it is time for Reform to get serious, because, you know, they had a good showing in the last general election. Obviously, only resulted in 5 seats. I know that...
5 seats, but 14% of the vote share.
So, I mean, this is the odd thing. Reform got 4.1 million votes, resulted in 5 seats. Lib Dem got 3.5 million, resulted in 72 seats.
Yeah, they got more of the vote share than the Lib Dems.
Yeah, so it is time for them to get serious.
In what way? What do you mean get serious?
About, OK, how are you actually going to play the system? You got more votes, fine, but that's not the system we have. You've got to get those seats. So I know that Nigel was talking the other day about stealing the Lib Dem playbook. Maybe that could work for them. To be seen if they could replicate that. But I think, you know, have all your jokes all you want, but if you want to be a serious political party, you've got 5 years. Because I think the excuse last time was we had 5 minutes to get ready. Nigel didn't know if he was in or out until, like, a few weeks before people went to the polls. Well, you've got 5 years now, so you're not going to have that same excuse. And don't forget, you've got all of the disheartenment with the Tories and their whole track record of how long they were in power and people felt that they weren't doing enough. You're going to have 5 years now where they can try and clear that slate a little bit. So if they could lose votes again to the Tories, it's not saying they're going to be able to increase the vote. Yeah. So I think it is a time to get serious.
OK, we're just going to go back to the Netherlands, where Charlie Peters is on standby, because I think there's a parachute drop taking place as we speak. Charlie, what's happening on the ground?
Well, you've just seen the Union flag just landing here. You've just missed them come down, but members of the Regiment's display team have just landed here at Ginkles Heath, which is where they've been gathering to display the commemoration for Operation Market Garden. We've had the mass drop of forces, but just now we've captured Red Devils display team coming down in the to display the drop zone. The smoke coming out there, but also members of that display team coming down from a high altitude, much higher than the forces who dropped to commemorate the operational jump earlier. They had also the Pegasus flag, which is the flag of airborne forces, first used in 1942. The airborne division taking symbol of Greek mythology, and they still wear it today on their sleeves to demonstrate their flash. But here they are, all here on the ground, Parachute Regiment's Red Devils display team.
OK, Charlie Peters there for us in the Netherlands. Thank you so much for showing that to us. And how powerful was that, seeing the Union Jack just...
I think we have when we come back in a few moments, we'll have a clip of the full parachute jump. So we did slightly miss it there, but we'll have a full clip in just a few minutes. Esther, last word to you on Reform. Lewis says they need to get serious, but I think they are. Nigel Farage is saying they're reforming the party, excuse the pun, on the way it's managed. He's going to seize control of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Nigel Farage will ever get really serious, because he's not that sort of personality. I think he will. I think at the moment politics is about, you know, sniping at others, looking for opportunities. I'm not sure how serious the Reform Party is in terms of something that it will take over from other parties in future.
I mean, that's politics, though, isn't it? Sniping at others and, you know, pointing
Yeah,
out...
but no, you said it's a bit American, but that's the kind of American way. Everyone, all they're doing is taking others, like the glasses, aren't Labour bad, ha, 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 let's all snipe at the others. And I would quite like to see people saying, no, this is how I'm going to lead, this is what we're going to do in the future, this is how we're going to save the world, this is how we're going to make a difference, but oh no, let's snipe at the others.
All right. Okay. Farage reckons he can win, or Reform can win, the 2029 general election.
Yeah.
No way!
Thinks he can be Prime Minister, yeah. Esther, Lewis, thank you very much. We'll be back with you after this short break with the other stories from today. We'll be looking at the papers.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
A furious online debate has been sparked after, well, let's just say a rather large man. I mean, he really was big. Was snapped trying to fit into his seat on a plane.
It's led to some to ask whether obese passengers should have to pay for extra plane seats so they don't inconvenience others.
Some say, though, that's cruel. So should plus-size passengers pay extra for plane seats? Let's talk to former presenter of Fat Families, Steve Miller, who's in Stratford-upon-Avon, and the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock, who's in beautiful Harrogate. Good to see you both this morning. Sarah, what do you think?
Well, we've had this debate before with Steve and I, to be fair, and I think it's one of those things where planes are just not fit for purpose anymore. So people's bodies have been growing over the years. We know this, the obesity rates are increasing, etc. But what's happening to planes is the seats are decreasing in size. So they're just not fit for purpose and not fit for the population. So I think it's just one of these things where we need to be more empathetic to people, that they're trying to fit into an environment that isn't shaped for them at all. So I think we do need to kind of say, well, what's right here? Is it the person not being able to fit in the seat, or is it the seat not being fit for purpose for the person? And I think we need to really, look at things from that perspective as well. Instead of thinking the person's doing something wrong, how about the environment might be doing something wrong?
Steve?
It's not about blaming, but the message you can't put out, in my opinion, is that it's okay to be obese and don't worry about it. You see, what I'm saying here is free plane seats. If you're offering free plane seats, an extra seat, that's going to normalise obesity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This Monday, the king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamon Holmes, returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, if you're watching just before the break, we were in Arnhem watching that parachute drop from the Red Devils. Here's the full clip of that very moment for you.
Wow, so there we go. So there's, Union Jacks flying proudly overhead, the smoke billowing down. Oh, is that it? Is that the clip?
Oh, wow. You can just see the Union Jack.
We've had some comments from Grumpy Grandad, who's a member. Good morning, Grumpy Grandad. He said, I've jumped into Arnhem many moons ago now. The locals really love the British. You see Pegasus flags all year round, not just for this anniversary, but it's an amazing jump to do because of the history behind it.
Yeah, and I was reading about Arnhem a little bit earlier on this morning, and apparently the British are just so special to the people of Arnhem because they recognise the ultimate sacrifice that was made by the British to try and liberate them. And although those efforts were futile, it's a really important part of their culture, and there is so much well, they're just so grateful for the British, and that is evident whenever you spend any time in Arnhem.
Yeah, so something we should be very proud of, indeed, in this country. Patricia, you say, well done, GB News, for your coverage of Arnhem. I can't see any other channel covering this. We need to pay homage to these very brave men, of whom not all survived. Indeed, I was looking at the casualty statistics. The US lost just under 4,000 dead, wounded or missing. The Brits and the Poles lost between 11 and 13,000 dead or wounded. 6,500 captured. Imagine what they went through, the prisoners of war. And German casualties numbered 7,500 to 10,000. So bloody is an understatement.
Yeah, truly is. And it's so right that they are honoured and remembered, just like those that were victorious on D-Day, because they are so often remembered, aren't they, and heralded. But it's right that those brave men in Arnhem too, because they did lay down their lives for this country. Look, we're going through some other stories in the papers now with our panel. We're joined by Lewis Oakley and Esther Stanhope. And Lewis, let's start with Free Gear Keir, shall we? It's been the story of the week, and apparently it's led to, well, calamity in the polls.
Yeah, so he has dropped by 26 points in the opinion polls. And, I mean, it's just been sort of going down from day one. He didn't even start that high. But, yeah, this is just bad optics. As we say, like, he hasn't done anything illegal or wrong. Everything was declared. But at the same time, you're telling people they don't get their winter fuel allowance and you're there walking off with your swag bag. It's just not a good look. And even, you know, I was thinking as well, the optics of them trying to clamp down on MPs having second jobs. You know, any of those could turn around and say, well, actually, we have to pay for our own clothes. I just think it's just bad optics that he's had. And, you know, we've got those comparisons of Sunak in the stands. He's just sat amongst the people. And
Prince William goes to Villa games, albeit in the director's box, but it's not an 8k per game seat. And by the way, can I just mention, this isn't just an isolated Labour incident. Since the start of their tenure, they were accused of filling the civil service with previous Labour donors, previous Labour aides, people who worked for Labour Together think tank. The civil service is meant to be politically neutral, and they bypassed a lot of procedures to get people into their positions, not least the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who parachuted Ian Caulfield, his name was, who donated £5,000 personally to her, and then he ended up in the Treasury with a 175k a year job. Yes, he did resign after it was revealed in the Times, but it does make you wonder, you know, you've spent years having a go at the Tories for this, and you do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's full of hypocrisy, and also the whole Sue Gray thing, and they were slagging off the Conservatives for not towing the line, and now they're being hypocrites because now they're taking freebies. And also Rachel Reeves accepted £7,500 for her wardrobe. Now I've got OK. So the first thing about the wardrobe thing, I know it's the optics bad. But come on, do they look as if they spent thousands of pounds on their wardrobe? I mean, they really ought to get another strategy for how to look good on camera. I do think that you need to spend a bit of money on your hair, wardrobe, makeup if you are going to be a public servant, right? But accepting free clothes, the way they did it wasn't really transparent. But come on, surely somebody could style them a little bit better, don't you think?
You don't think it's very good value for money?
Not good value for money. I'm not sure about Angela Rayner's big, wide trousers as well. You know, they could do better with their wardrobe.
You think they should have got a stylist as well?
I don't think you know, a very expensive stylist is what we should be paying for. No. But surely they can borrow clothes. And I know people send you some things, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, people send you. You said that somebody sent you some jewellery the other day, Ellie.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. Yeah, lovely. But as long as you're open about it and honest about it, I think that the issue here, and it is about optics, because no rules, as far as we know, have been broken. But I think when you set yourself up as a different sort of politician, when you talk about a crackdown on cronyism, you have to behave differently. You can't be seen to be anything like the Tories that preceded you.
Well, I think that comes out in this poll that's been this damning poll. Only 28% think that he's delivering on his promise of cleaning up politics. And that was one of the key things that he wanted to go in and do. So if you're failing on that and everyone thinks you're just in it for the freebies...
And for the glasses, the £2,500 glasses...
Freebies that aren't working, according to you.
Should we go on to Specsavers?
we forget what came in return for these donations. Lord Ali, who has been around the Labour Party a long time, but he got an unfettered pass to number 10 for about 4 weeks throughout all of August. Why does he need that pass? And again, I asked yesterday, who are these people? You know, who elected them?
Unelected.
How much influence do they have in government and in number 10? Sue Gray, likewise, she's paid more than the Prime Minister. Who are these people? I don't mean to sound like Nikki from Big Brother all those years ago, but who are you?
Who is she? Who is she?
Yeah.
I think that they really need to remember their place as I was saying before, they didn't win a landslide, they won a sinkhole. They weren't that popular to start off with, and so if you come in and you can't uphold the standards and the words that you said in the campaign of cleaning up politics, you know, the only place to go is down. So I think it, to me, makes me want to have more of a conversation about our voting system, of how you can get less votes than Jeremy Corbyn but still have a massive return of seats because of what happened there.
Yeah.
Because I think we're dealing with a government that was never that popular to start with. So,
it was a loveless landslide.
Yeah.
And this is almost as if history is repeating itself. There was Tony Blair in his memoirs said that he came to regret hounding John Major's government over standards and sleaze. He said it was a good media game and in opposition they played it, which is exactly what we're seeing happen before this general election. He said the goals were easy, but the long-term consequences were disastrous.
I totally agree. I'm talking about sleaze, and we are talking about, you know, the free clothes and everything. But the trouble is, it's too easy to snipe and say, look how they're awful, look how terrible they are, they're so sleazy, they're all hypocrites, aren't they awful? And that's something that Trump always does. I want to see people coming up with some really good, bright ideas. What actually are we going to do for the country? What are we going to do for the people? I want to feel Keir Starmer caring more about people. I want to hear Nigel Farage caring more about what are we actually going to do and what are their ideas? How are we going to change the way we vote? How are we going to get more young people to vote? You know, the voting system is a joke.
Yeah.
We need to do something about it.
Well,
Good luck with that.
Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer and whoever else has been bagging freebies and clothes have said we won't do it anymore. We reject any donations of clothes. So,
but please send them here.
but yeah, please send them to my friend. Should we move on? Lewis, what about Mohammed Al-Fayed? These really sort of horrific revelations in the wake of his death last year that he allegedly raped 5 people. They did pop up some years back when he was still alive, but the CPS, who, by the way, I'll just mention, was headed by Sir Keir Starmer at the time, deemed that it wasn't necessary to proceed and to look at. And just to give balance to that, Number 10 have said in the last 24 hours, this Al-Fayed case never passed Keir Starmer's desk at the time. But, yeah, we had a really sort of quite graphic press conference yesterday.
Awful. I mean, awful. And you kind of think, how many more of these people come out of the woodwork and you find out that they... I mean, it's saying here, you know, it was sort of a 25 years of terror. He was getting away with this stuff and no one could stop him and he was too powerful. And it just, you know... And then it's coming to the light now, but he's dead. So even though, you know, that you can sort of get criminal, you know, recognition... You know, he's dead. He'll never face his co-uppance, which really angers me about things like this. And, you know, I kind of want to know, well, who knew about this? Who was helping cover this up? Who, if it wasn't Keir Starmer, who in the Crown Prosecution Service decided there wasn't enough evidence here? And you just hope that we're in a bit of a different world now than when this went on, where anyone can pull out their phone and record some wrongdoing, where anyone can go on Twitter and say, this is what's going on, that they don't have to fight to get their voice out. You know, that's the only hope I have. And when you read these stories, you just think it's just too terrible.
I just think that it's safety in numbers, though. I think you don't really want to say, yeah, you know, I was sexually abused. It's just the courage you need to come out and admit that that happened to you. It all really started with Leslie Judd, is it, who talked about Harvey Weinstein. But you need somebody to be courageous first, and then the people come out of the woodwork. These 100 people are coming out. I just think it's so embarrassing. I mean, the whole thing, it's just, you'd feel really just ashamed of... You'd feel so ashamed if you had to be the first one to come out and admit that it happened to you. But clearly, this has been a problem for years and years. There's cultural issues, there's systemic... rapists and perverts in the workplace with people with power.
These brave victims did come out at the time, and they were arguably let down by institutions like the CPS, who said that there was no case to answer.
So then you wouldn't come out, knowing that nothing's going to be done and you're not going to be treated well. You wouldn't come out.
One poor girl even recorded Al-Fayed raping her, and then managed to pass it on to the police and a transcript to the BBC. I mean, it was horrific. But yeah, our thoughts go out to the victims, and we'll see how it progresses.
Lewis, Esther, thank you very much. We're going to
thank you.
Thank you. Hour. Just important to say that a spokesperson for Harrods has given us this statement. The Harrods of today is a very different organisation to the one owned and controlled by Al-Fayed between 1985 and 2010. It is one that seeks to put the welfare of our employees at the heart of everything that we do.
OK, thank you both. You'll be back in the next hour. Coming up, we have the mole doctor, don't we?
We do.
Who's going to be...
And he's spotted the mole on your leg, but you're OK.
Yes, he said it was an insect bite from years ago and nothing to worry about.
Good,
so
you were very worried about that.
Yeah,
It's
indeed.
keeping you up at night, but it's nothing to worry about.
Dr. Ross Perry will be in the studio, and also Nelson Aspen live from New York on the US election race.
Good luck.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
We're having a giggle because somebody said Ellie's always so excellently well dressed, and then what were you saying about your fake tan?
Oh, I
Always
fake
on
tanned
tan.
the heavens, is what I said.
Yeah,
Yes,
there we go.
and they said that you look like a scruff.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what they said. Someone said I look like a disgrace next to you.
It's not true.
No, it's not true.
It's not true. But thank you for saying that. I look lovely. I appreciate that.
Anyway, on to more serious matters. If you have spotted a lingering mole or perhaps a mark somewhere on your skin, it would be smart not to dismiss it.
Yes, post-summer sun exposure can lead to moles becoming inflamed and potentially damaged, making it essential to check them for any changes.
Joining us now is Dr. Ross Perry, the UK's go-to mole expert and the director of Cosmetics Skin Clinics. Good morning, Ross. Thank you for joining us. So, look, first of all, what's the difference between a mole and a freckle, I guess? Because after lots of exposure in the sun, you've been on a holiday somewhere, we all come out, or most of us come out with freckles on the face and so on.
Yeah, so moles are normally something you genetically get, and you'll get them as you get a little bit older. Freckles are related to sun, so they will pop out and so forth. So I think the main thing is if you have a freckle that persists or changes, then that potentially is quite worrying. But a mole will be there all your life, really. So I think it's really just a case of knowing your moles and knowing what comes and goes, but what's there persistently. But I think the most important thing is new things, new or changing things. That overrides everything else.
And Doctor, we've been laughing with you in the break, haven't we? Because Dr. Ross Perry walked into this studio and the first thing I said was, "Hi, can you check my neck, please? Can you check the mole?" You've had your moles checked.
Yeah.
And you might have noticed Esther Stanhope is still with us on the sofa because you would like a mole check, wouldn't you, Esther?
Yes, because it's not a mole, it's something that my grandma used to have, and I was told it was sun damage. And my doctor worried me because she said, "Oh, can you take photos of it?" As if I've got a mark on my head. This is very unglamorous.
Can we show the camera
doing it. I normally wear makeup. I will show you. I will reveal. There might be a bit of foundation on it, but that is kind of like a sun damage. It's not.
Well, it's not. It's basically, these are very common, first thing to say, but they look a little bit worrying because often they have multiple colours to them. They're a bit rough and a bit raised. But this is what we call a keratosis. I'm afraid it's something that you get as you get a little bit older.
Oh.
But they are completely harmless.
Oh.
But they can easily mimic something that looks quite nasty. So it's always best to get it checked, because it's very easy for me to say that now because I can examine it and look at it. But actually for you, you don't really know the difference, and it's quite difficult to say how much abnormality is abnormal relative to normal moles. And I think that's when, you know, if it's changed, if it looks abnormal, just get it checked.
Thank you so much, because I thought that maybe
You
it
had a
was
big sigh of
abnormal.
relief there, didn't you?
It's all right. It's all right. Thank you so much,
Well,
Doctor.
It is a worry that so many of us have, especially when you come back from holiday and you notice that your moles or your freckles might have got a little bit bigger or changed. What are you looking for when you can look at something and touch something and say, yep, that's fine? How do you know if something's abnormal?
So I think change, that's the simple one. So basically, if it's new, changing, looks different from all your other moles. So when you're looking, you want to compare a body part, because there's no point just lifting up your sleeve and going, is that one abnormal? You want to compare it to all your other moles. And that's the easiest way. And if it just looks like what we call the ugly duckling, and that just, yeah, exactly. Well, it just looks different from all your other moles. And if it's changed, often dark, irregular, and often multitude of colours, those are what you're looking for.
Do you want to get yours checked out?
Yeah, I've got one. I thought it was a freckle on my neck, but I believe it might not be a freckle now after what you just described. I don't think we've got a close.
Don't know if we can.
We can describe it for you.
So it's a little bit raised.
And that worries me.
So not all moles that are raised are worrying. It's often the flat, very dark black moles that you're more worried about.
Okay.
So it's got a relatively uniform colour, which is the nice thing. So if it's a uniform colour, and it does match your dress. But what you're looking for, if it's got irregular colour, irregular shape, an irregular edge to it.
Ross,
those are
does it matter if it's raised? Is being something raised?
This is raised, I'm concerned.
No, raised doesn't always mean that it's worrying. Often when it's raised, it catches. So then it irritates, bleeds, and so forth. So it's not always the first sign that something's abnormal. However, if that does persist or carry on like that, then certainly get it checked, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. What's the difference between a mole and a wart? In terms of what to look out for?
So warts are completely different. So warts are generally rough, they're raised, they stick out of the skin, they almost have a cauliflower-like texture to them. Whereas moles are often quite smooth, certainly in the early stages. Yeah.
But can warts be cancerous as well as it may be
Very
moles?
rarely, very rarely. So it's always generally moles. You can get other types of skin cancer. That's the other thing that people don't really know about. So everyone always goes on about a mole being the worrying one, and it is because it's the most aggressive type. But you get non-melanoma skin cancers, which basically are predominantly due to sun exposure. And those occur on your face, chest, sun-exposed sites.
And can I ask you about skin tags?
Yes.
I get them now and then on my neck. I think, what causes them? And also, when you get one, what do? Can you just cut it off, or is that safe? Or...
So, yeah, DIY, Googling sort of how to get rid of things is probably not the best way of doing things. Skin tags, they're just from skin rubbing on skin, and they're just little sort of growths on the skin. Completely harmless.
Just leave them?
Leave them if they're not bothering you. If they rub or irritate, then you can just have them removed. A little snip or a little bit of freezing can just get rid of them quite easily.
I think Ellie's feeling a bit grossed out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all of this talk, but it is important to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people? We've just come back from our summer holidays. What advice to stay safe in the sun, and what should people be looking for on their bodies? Yeah.
So, I mean, the common things are common. If you're going out into the sun, wear a factor sunblock that's appropriate for your skin type.
50 for me.
Yeah, you're fair skin, fair skin, fair skin.
You'll be on something like 10. He's the same worst for me.
I wore factor 6 Caratol, but Ross, no, listen, hear me out. I don't.
He's in your bad books.
I don't burn. I think I've got sort of meds background in my skin colour. I don't really burn. And I tan very quickly, maybe in...
So by having that skin type, yes, you are slightly more protected than, say, Ellie, for instance. However, that is not the absolute. You can still have a high risk burning and so
higher
forth.
Than factor 6?
Yeah, you should be. Yeah, 30 should be everyone's minimum.
Another question, sorry, on tanning. So I'm keen on tanning. It makes everybody look
Sunbeds?
healthier. No, not sunbeds. The higher the factor, the SPF you wear, does it reduce the tan?
Well, it will do, yes. So ideally, you should all be on a 30 as a minimum. That's basically the baseline. Anything less than that, you're not really doing yourself any favours. 50 if you're fair-skinned. Again, you've got to protect your skin, and I think people just try and cheat it, and they go, oh, do you know what, I'll put the cream on a little bit less, try and get a little bit of a tan.
Yeah.
They invariably get it wrong, and they burn.
Okay.
And that burn increases their risk.
All right, Dr. Ross Perry, Director of Cosmetics, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you for returning, Esther.
Yes, thanks, Esther, for
Thank you,
sharing.
Doctor.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, Doctor. Really good to meet you. We could talk to you all morning, couldn't we? But we can't, I'm afraid, because we're going to New York. Well, we're not actually, we wish we were, but we're going to be talking to Nelson Aspin, who is in New York with the latest from the presidential race. That's next.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Meghan Markle is finding it very, very difficult to recruit staff for her lifestyle brand, which is called American Riviera Orchard. There's a mouthful for you. Apart from a jam gifted to influencers earlier this year, the brand is yet to launch any products.
Well, let's speak to our US Royal and Showbiz reporter, Kinsey Schofield. Good morning to you, Kinsey. Who's going to want that gig?
I mean, there are rumors that Netflix has said, allow us to manage the retail strategy. If she can't manage to find a CEO or somebody willing to work with her, Netflix sees an opportunity there.
To be an influencer, people have got to want to be like you. Do people like her?
I mean, this has been her biggest issue in the last few years, is realizing that there's been a shift when it comes to their popularity. Harry and Meghan believed their own hype when they said on that Netflix series that the reason they were ostracized was because they were much more popular than the British royals. They were more popular than Prince William, more popular than Princess Kate. And their popularity has declined immensely. And now they are desperate to win people over again.
Most people have to be liked or admired, and I put it to you, Kinsey, she'll have difficulty on both fronts.
Netflix is not going to renew this contract. I mean, they are fearful that this cooking show, this polo show, will not connect with the audience. And now they want us to believe that Meghan is at home cooking all this banana bread and having her best friend Chrissy Teigen over for scones. People aren't going to buy it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This Monday, the king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamon Holmes, returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. 10:50, Ben and Ellie with you on Saturday Morning Live, only on GB News. And we're going stateside now, where Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are locked in a tight race to the White House. There was, of course, another attempt on President Trump's life this week, but the coverage seems to have gone a little bit cold.
Well, we're delighted to be joined now by journalist and author Nelson Aspin, as always, live from New York for us on a Saturday morning. Good to see you, Nelson. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable, isn't it? A second attempt on Trump's life in this presidential campaign, and the media just seems to have gone cold on it.
It's very disturbing. In fact, the Secret Service had to give a statement yesterday and a subsequent press conference to try and justify that they are taking care of the situation. They're on top of the investigation. They did arrest a suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Ralph. And what's remarkable about this would-be assassin, alleged, is that he's had over 100 run-ins with law enforcement for various infractions over the years. And this is the problem with the state of America's law and order, is the recidivism. The fact that he could have had more than 100 run-ins and not been on the radar. So fortunately, the attempt on former President Trump's life was nipped in the bud before anything happened. Trump, in his unusually comical style, managed to laugh it off by saying golf is a very dangerous game, because of course this attempt on his life happened at one of his golf courses. So it is very disturbing, and the Republicans are blaming the Democrats for their rhetoric. They feel that the rhetoric of saying Trump is a so-called threat to democracy is what brings this out, what incites this type of potential violence. And the Democrats, a lot of the Democratic lawmakers are doubling down on that when they're called out on it. And they say, well, yes, he is a threat to democracy. So it is concerning. They have raised, they being the Secret Service level of protection for former President Trump is now at the same high level that it was when he was president, as it should be. Yeah. He's not only the Republican candidate, but he's a former president, and he does need that level of protection.
Yeah, and you know what? Props to Joe Biden for that, because that was his decision. He called Trump again after that assassination attempt, as did Kamala Harris, to check he was OK. And indeed, Joe Biden did bump up his Secret Service details. So props to him and credit where it's due. Tell us, Nelson, about Kamala Harris. She's been sitting down with Oprah Winfrey in an interview, and I caught a moment when she accidentally mentioned that she would shoot an intruder in her home. Did you see that?
I did. And this was a very highly produced, very slick campaign event, sort of replicating the heyday of Oprah Winfrey's talk show. And it was talk show style format in a studio, beautiful lighting, 400 of her supporters as guests, including Swifties for Harris. Good thing the Swifties were there, and thousands of people live streaming in, including the usual suspects of celebrities like Meryl Streep and Ben Stiller and Chris Rock, all the cheerleaders. But yes, on the subject of gun control, when they got into the issue of firearms, Kamala, in her inimitable style of laughing, started laughing about how she herself is a gun owner and wouldn't hesitate to shoot someone if they broke into her house. It was, pardon the pun, it was a misfire, I believe, on the light way in which she handled it. But that's the nature of the beast, and that's what you get when you're sitting down in that kind of a format. I should call back, if people don't recall this, it was Oprah Winfrey who introduced America in many ways to Barack Obama. It was a real pivotal moment for Barack Obama's campaign when she had him on her show. So maybe she's hoping she can do the same for Kamala Harris.
OK, Nelson Aspin, I think there's, 7 weeks to go until the big day. I say every week, I'm here for it. I cannot wait. Yeah. We will chat to you again next week. Thanks, Nelson.
Thanks, Nelson.
Come over for a viewing party.
No, we need to. Don't encourage us. We want to be on a flight, don't we? Thanks very much, Nelson. Do stay with us. Lots more to come, including our Showbiz selection. More of today's top stories and the latest boxing build-up. Don't go anywhere.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. There's a bit of a mixed fortunes in terms of our weather this weekend, depending on exactly where you are located in the UK, all due to two pressure systems that are affecting different areas. We've got high pressure in the north, close to Iceland, affecting areas of Scotland, but it's low pressure in the south that is starting to feed in some occluded frontal systems, and we are going to see some showers developing over the course of the day. Particular focus for parts of Wales, central, southwestern areas of England. There is a thunderstorm warning in force because some of those showers could be quite thundery and heavy, with the risk of some hail and lightning strikes in there as well. If you manage to avoid those showers, though, there will be some quite decent sunny spells across southern areas as well, climbing to highs of 25 degrees Celsius, feeling pleasantly warm in here. Further towards the north, though, there's a bit of an east-west split. Parts of eastern coastal areas of Scotland and down into northeast England as well are going to be pretty cloudy throughout much of today, and that is going to make it feel quite cool in places. Temperatures not seeing much higher than 11 or 12 degrees Celsius here, but parts of northwest Scotland seeing a lot of sunshine, climbing towards 20 degrees Celsius here, and some quite decent sunny spells for Northern Ireland into the afternoon as well. There are those showers then across parts of Wales as we head into the evening, but we do get a second pulse of thundery rain arriving as we head into the overnight period, spreading across the Channel Islands, and then it will be moving into southern areas of England later on to the second half of the night. Again, some heavy pulses of rain are possible. It will cause some travel disruption, and so the thunderstorm warning changes into a bit more of a rain warning as we head into Sunday. A mild night for many of us, temperatures holding up around 14 to 16 degrees Celsius, but chillier and underneath those rural skies of northwest Scotland. For much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, though, it is a relatively similar day on Sunday. Again, the best of the sunshine will be further towards the west, with that cloud filtering in across the east. But for Wales and central southern areas of England, again, we do have those heavy pulses of rain. Some thunderstorms developing in times, and it is going to feel quite humid. And amongst all of that, temperatures again climbing to just around 20-21 degrees Celsius. Things turn cooler, though, as we head into the new working week, but still remaining relatively unsettled. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Desning Crack.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. I'm Ellie Costello alongside Ben Leo, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Great to have your company this morning. It's an action-packed show in store with today's top panel, Lewis Oakley and the marvellous Esther Stanhope. There they are.
Have a look at what we're up against. The journalists are
Can I tease the
obsessed
fact he's talking?
with who is going to be the next Conservative leader. And the truth is, I don't give a damn who the next leader of the Conservative Party is.
Nigel Farage dubs the Tory brand bust and broken. We're going to be crossing live to Birmingham in about 15 minutes' time, where Nigel Farage will be speaking at day 2 of the Reform Party conference.
And elsewhere, today marks 80 years since Operation Market's Garden, where paratroopers in the Netherlands launched a daring offensive against Germany in World War II. Charlie Peters is there for us.
Some 700 paratroopers from 8 different nations will jump here at Ginkelheath in the Netherlands to commemorate Operation Market Garden, one of the most audacious missions in British military history.
And are you going to be tuning in for this? Tonight, Anthony Joshua takes on Daniel Dubois, but who will land those powerful knockout punches in the ring? Britain's youngest promoter, Ben Shalom, will be here with us for the ringside gossip.
Married at First Sight UK is back on our screens this week. Is there such a thing as love at first sight? Can couples still be matched blindly? Well, former Married at First Sight star April Banbury will be here to reveal all. So, do you think you can fall in love at first sight?
No. I think you can fancy someone on, from first sight, maybe perhaps even lust, dare I say it, but I don't think you can fall in love from first sight.
No, I totally agree with you, actually, yes. I don't think you can fall in love at first sight. But let us know if you have, if you've got a story, perhaps you're married now for 60 years after falling in love at first sight. I love those kind of stories.
I love your stories, yes, send those in. I think love develops over time because you become, love is encompassing of sort of trust and memories and...
that's nice.
When you have kids, that's a new brand or branch, rather, of love. I don't know.
I like it when you get all deep and philosophical. It's very nice.
Well, let us know what you think. Is love a first sight thing, or does it develop and mature over time, as I say?
Yeah, gbnews.com/your say.
Before we do anything else, Sophie Reaper has all your news headlines.
Thank you, Ben. It's just after 11 o'clock, and these are your latest headlines. Today is day 2 of the Reform Conference in Birmingham, with speeches expected from senior party members. Last night, the party's leader, Nigel Farage, told supporters that he believes Reform can win the next general election, given the number of people that agree with their principles. He also explained what drove him to stand as Clacton's MP once the general election was called earlier this year.
At almost every level, we'd been betrayed. And then I thought about what was happening on our streets. And frankly, I thought to myself, Britain is broken. And then I couldn't help it. But if Britain is broken, then logically, Britain needs reform.
Staying with politics, Angela Rayner has announced plans to make irreversible changes to devolution laws across the entire north of England. Speaking ahead of her speech at the Labour Party conference tomorrow, the Deputy PM has committed to handing power back to areas such as Lancashire, Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire. She also said that the new government will harness potential in the economy in order to allow innovation and growth to bloom in every part of the country. Later today, a March for Palestine is expected to make its way through the streets of Liverpool. Organised by the Palestine Solidarity Campaign, the group say their demands include ending the genocide, stopping the arming of Israel and saying no to war in the Middle East. They also say they'll be directing these aims towards the government at the annual Labour Party conference, which begins in Liverpool tomorrow. This year marks the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden and the Battle of Arnhem. Celebrations in the Netherlands this weekend will commemorate 80 years since 1900 Allied troops parachuted into the then-occupied country with the aim of recapturing the bridges of Arnhem. Throughout the morning, the contemporary equivalents of those men are recreating the drop at Ginkelheath in Ada, jumping from an aircraft into the same place our troops would have landed 8 decades ago. A snap poll will open today as members of the National Education Union will vote on pay and funding. Teachers and education professionals in the UK will have until the 30th of September to either accept or reject the government's offer of a 5.5% pay rise. This comes after Chancellor Rachel Reeves agreed in full to follow the recommendations of the School Teachers Review Body. And the Met Office has issued a further weather warning with heavy rain and thunderstorms forecast for the rest of the weekend. The alert will remain in place throughout today, covering Wales, the Midlands, the southwest and parts of the southeast. The forecaster has warned that people should expect damage to buildings as a result of lightning strikes, disruption to public transport and flooding all within the affected areas. Those are your latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Sophie Reaper. More from me in the next half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophie, and welcome to Saturday Morning Live. And I feel bad now. I feel like we've been really cynical about love at first sight.
Oh, because of the messages.
All of you are just so romantic, and it's lovely. Michael says, yes, you absolutely can fall in love at first sight. I asked my wife to marry me.
Cry?
It's just so sweet. I asked my wife to marry me after 4 hours of meeting her. 46 years together. We wonder where all those years have gone.
Oh, bless you.
Congratulations.
Coral. Congrats. Coral, you said, yes, definitely love at first sight. Just one look 50 years ago. And Janie, you've literally just messaged this. A scruffy biker
Oh!
A scruffy biker sat me on his knee as I walked past in a pub in 1986. I definitely fell for him straight away. We were hardly apart until he died of COPD in 2022.
Aww.
From the minute we met, he was my everything. So, yes, I do think you can.
Oh,
bless you.
Jeannie, I'm sorry for your loss, but thank you for sharing that story. Do keep them coming in. It's lovely, isn't it? It's heartwarming. It's nice. All of this, the horrible stuff going on in today's world, and just to hear about these lovely
that's
stories.
why I like this show, because we do shows in the week which are, of course, hard news.
It's doom and gloom a lot of the time, isn't it?
And although we do news on this programme, we mix it up with a bit of lighter stuff, bit of love, nice tales.
Yeah, human stories, things that really do matter. GBNews.com/you'll say, do keep them coming in. And just to lighten the tone, Colin has been in touch saying, yes, you definitely can fall in love at first sight, like Starmer with his mirror. There's gifted sunglasses and prescription glasses.
Very good, Colin. And you provided a nice segue into the next segment, which is about politics, of course, because the Reform Conference continues in Birmingham with speeches from the party's senior figures, including the leader himself, man of the moment, Nigel Farage. Earlier, he took aim at the Prime Minister over the cash for clothes scandal. Let's take a look.
Do you like them? Very expensive. But guess what? I bought them myself. How about that?
Well, we can cross live now to Birmingham, where GB News political editor Christopher Hope is. Very good morning to you, Christopher. And that is Farage in his element, isn't it? Farage, the showman, really seizing on this story, attacking Sir Keir Starmer and having fun at the same time. But there is a serious side and serious political messaging as well to come this weekend.
That's right, and morning Ali and morning Ben here from Birmingham, the NEC, the National Exhibition Centre. That's right, the serious part of this party, over the shoulder of the camera operator, I can see a pick and mix stall, and in a sense this party is like a sort of toddler on a sugar rush of that excitement from winning 5 MPs back in July. But the hard yards, adolescence and the rest start shortly as they try and progress forward to the next election where they actually want to win it. Now, Nigel Farage, I've interviewed him just on the stand moments ago for my podcast, Chopper's Political Podcast, out tomorrow morning. He said he's now 6-1 to be Prime Minister in 2029. Now that is a zillion miles away from where we are now politically. 5 MPs to 326 MPs, that's more than half of MPs in the House of Commons, is a huge step to make, given how weighted against the Reform Party and any new party our political system is. But the plumbing, the back office stuff starts now, because at 11:15 this morning we'll be seeing on our screens Nigel Farage signing the party's new constitution, which he gives away the shares, the control of a company that owns Reform UK to the members. It becomes a party limited by guarantee. The members own it. What that means is if more than half the members want a vote of confidence in the leader, the board will look at doing that. If they have more than 100 MPs and 50 MPs want a vote of confidence in the leader, the board will look at that. So it's trying to put a degree of control over the power of the leader, Nigel Farage. And that's difficult for Farage, but it's what you need to do if you have any pretense of replacing the Tory party or becoming the party of government, which is what they are saying to us here in Reform UK. We've heard a lot from him overnight. A party last night I was at, the crowd serenaded Farage, saying things like, singing to him, "You're too good to be true, can't keep my eyes off you." There's no question this party, this event, 2/3 bigger than it, or 3 times bigger than it was a year ago, has been energised by Farage, energised by the 4.1 million votes they won in the July election. But how they kick on from here, that's the next challenge.
Yeah, Chopper, as you've mentioned, Farage revealed his ambition yesterday that he wants to win, of course, the 2029 general election. But it's not just pie in the sky. He really thinks that stranger things have happened. Indeed, on the top of my head, Donald Trump winning in 2016. What do you make of that ambition? Nigel Farage for Prime Minister. Are we going to see him in number 10 in 2029?
Ben, that's a great question for a Saturday morning. I mean, Trump did it from within the Republican Party. So what Farage wants to do is outside of the Tory party, outside of the normal parties we have in this country, and that makes it so much more challenging without the kind of electoral reform he needs. If we have this PR, proportional representation, if votes equal seats, he would have dozens of MPs, not just 5, and that's his challenge. But he thinks he's the once-in-a-century moment it can happen. Don't forget, the Whigs, the Liberals, they were the party at the beginning of the last century, and then Labour replaced them. And so things can happen. We saw it happen in Canada in the mid-90s when Reform replaced the Conservative Party there. So it can happen. He wants it to happen. He has heard behind me someone cheering on GB News too. I mean, there's no question. We're a challenger brand. We're trying to overturn established brands in the media broadcast world. Well, guess what? Reform UK is trying to do the same thing in politics. It's a hell of a challenge, though, for them.
It certainly is. Christopher Hope in Birmingham, thank you very much.
OK, we welcome back our panel now, Lewis Oakley and Esther Stanhope, to go through the rest of the day's stories. Any more to say on reform briefly? We've covered it in the last hour. Farage for PM 2029, can you see it?
I can't see it happening because with the Conservatives and Reform, because that vote is split, whatever you want to call it, the centre vote, the right vote, whatever it is, because it's split, I just think Labour will be able to get in so long as it's split. So I just can't see the numbers and the system working to ever enable it.
And then you've got the likes of Robert Jenrick speaking yesterday saying that English identity is under threat, which sounds directly out of the Reform handbook, doesn't it? So he's chomping at their heels.
Everybody is just having a big old party in Birmingham, aren't they, with fireworks, pick and mix, taxis. OK, a few years ago, I remember saying, I think Boris might become Prime Minister, and I was laughed off the stage. I was laughed, you know, out of the room. But then Boris Johnson did become Prime Minister. So, you know, stranger things have happened.
It's definitely a potential. There's too much. We don't even know who the leader of the opposition is going to be yet. So let's see who they are, if they're any good. And events, dear boy, events. Like, anything could happen before 2029.
Let him just carry on saying it. Just let him carry on playing. That's
we
what
did
he's
just
doing.
hear Nigel Farage say, didn't he? He's not fussed anyway. Doesn't give a damn who the Tory leader will next be. Esther, let's talk about something really important, shall we, which is, of course, winter fuel payments. And this is a story in the Daily Express today that 86% of the poorest pensioners in this country are going to lose their help with winter fuel payments.
I just don't understand why. What is the point in cutting the winter fuel allowance? I don't understand the benefit of it. What are the benefits? What are the risks? The risks are massive. The risks are people are going to freeze to death. People are going to really hate you. You know, but the benefits are what? OK, you save money, but why that?
Well,
Labour's
Labour's own research from 2017 said that up to 4,000 pensioners would die if the Tories took away that fuel allowance.
So why do they do it? I don't understand.
Some people...
It's a £2 billion black hole, isn't it? It's saving money, is what they would say. And they would say that the poorest pensioners will still get help.
Yeah, it's means tested. Yeah,
because it's means tested.
Some people in the comments are saying, well, they know that they don't vote for them, so they don't really care if they are here next election.
Do you think there's some truth in that?
I would hope that no one is that evil. But I think the thing that really gets me about this is just that, you know, for all of us, we work our lives, you put away, if you've done everything right, you know, you put into a pension, and then to kind of face in retirement the idea that you can't afford your bills and that the help that you have banked on is not there. You know, if any of us sat here was struggling for money, struggling to put the heat on, we could all go and get second jobs. Pensioners can't do that, and that's what makes it really insidious. They don't have any options.
And I think it is also worth reflecting that these are people that have worked hard their entire lives, and they're also very, very proud people. Even if they were freezing in their own homes, they wouldn't be the type to come with a begging bowl. They wouldn't be the type to ask for help. These are the people that are going to really suffer.
I know. I just think this is the most ridiculous decision to decide to cut things. I think when you cut things and you have to save money, but when you're cutting things, how is the decision made? How does the conversation go? So what do we think the risks are? Well, what could happen if some people really have not got the money to keep themselves warm in the winter? What are the implications of that? You know, that's quite an important conversation. Did they not have that?
I do almost think maybe there might be a last-minute U-turn on the budget. Like, the budget will be awful for everyone, and then they'll leave that out, and then that could be their sort of... Maybe they're saving that for nearer the budget.
But then we had that story yesterday, didn't we, that national debt is now 100% of GDP. I mean, it's looking bleak ahead of October.
And I guess if you were a Labour strategist, what you would say is, look, we've got a massive majority, let's do all the harsh stuff now, and then spend 4 years, hopefully, people will forget all the harsh stuff we did did in year one.
Well, the Treasury's been given a £10 billion boost because the Bank of England said they're going to pay back their national debt at a slower rate. So they've got £10 billion extra in the bank, the Treasury, Rachel Reeves, but she's hinted that regardless, she's not going to U-turn on the winter fuel payment being scrapped, as some Labour MPs want, and she's going to carry on being with her strict fiscal path. So even though they have more money and they could plug the gap, they're still choosing, likely, to not do it.
All I would say is everyone get involved. You know, go and speak to your local MP, go and put that pressure on, write them emails, let them know this is not something that you want to see happening. If we put that pressure on, they are normal people and they will go back, and then that pressure will go up to the cabinet. So I think, you know, don't just sit around moaning about it. Write an email, go and see your local MP.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I think most MPs, especially at the start of a new government, would be more loyal to the party as opposed to their constituents because they've got 5 years to make it up to them.
But look, all the leaks that are already happening.
No, that is very true.
They've got too many MPs, and there's a load of MPs that know they're never going to get near the cabinet. There's a load of people that have never been MPs before. So actually, it's quite hard to manage that many MPs, which is why, you know...
Well, the honeymoon period, I mean, forget what the public think, but within Labour... is certainly over, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The briefing that's going.
Did they have a honeymoon, though? Talking about love at first sight. I'm not sure how much of a honeymoon they really had.
No.
OK. Should we move on to The Sun, page 5?
Yeah, but this is
everyone's favourite sports broadcaster, Gary Lineker, is to cut his pay for Match of the Day. So he's in talks with Habib over a multi-year deal for Match of the Day after volunteering to take a pay cut.
Yeah, so he's volunteering £350,000 to knock off his salary, so he'll just be taking home a comfortable £1 million. So, you know, maybe he'll need some clothes donations as well. But you can't really argue with that, can you? He's taking a cut, he's saving us all a bit of money. I'm sure that money will be spent better elsewhere.
It's still a massive salary, isn't it?
It is still a massive salary. I think the thing with things like this is that I don't know how much of appeal, and, you know, I'm not the biggest football fan in the world, but, you know, how much of an appeal does Gary Lineker have? And when you think of the BBC, where it's not really out to make profit, I really feel like jobs like that should go to young upstarts, young presenters, getting in new talent, rather than paying the old talent £1 million.
Yeah, I reckon, Esther, if you ask Match of the Day viewers, do you tune in to see Gary Lineker or do you tune in to watch the football highlights? They tune in to watch the football highlights.
They tune in to watch the football highlights and fall asleep on the sofa.
Yeah.
They don't care about Gary Lineker and all of his cronies and all of his mates. He gets the same people in again and again. Look, I think, talking about optics, because we're talking about optics today, aren't we, about the clothes and everything. Gary Lineker, the optics, what a hero. That's what he's doing. He's making himself look good by giving back in his way. I mean, absolutely, we want new talent. I would much rather have more voices and different people on Match of the Day. I watch it occasionally with my family. I wouldn't tune in myself that much.
I can never stop.
But they have the same people all the time.
Yeah. To be fair, the plot twist here is that, was it Jermaine Jenas? Was that his name?
Last time we were here.
Was kind of like set to take over, or that was the rumour, but now obviously that's not going to happen. So it might have been that Gary was out the door and they've actually said, oh, actually stay a bit longer.
Yeah, and also it gets him a few headlines. It also gets him in the good books. How could they possibly axe Gary if he's putting his money down? You know, I think it's strategic.
Well, it's not bad money. How long's the show? It's an hour show, isn't it? Once a week. then a bit of prep. How long's the prep?
I can't imagine very long.
You watch the games.
He just watches football. It's basically watching football.
What should be doing in his spare time?
Exactly.
I reckon it's 5 hours a week for $1 million.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
Good work, you can get it.
I'll do it if you like.
Mate, I'd do it for 500 grand a year, let alone $1 million a year.
Just 500. It's very generous of you.
Yeah, or even 250. I'm easy.
We'll put in a good word for you.
I don't think somehow the BBC would touch me with a barge pole, but...
Esther, Lewis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Good to see you today.
All right, sticking with the sport theme, do you like your boxing?
No, I don't like watching boxing. It's a bit violent for me. Do you like it?
I like it, yeah.
Will you be watching tonight?
The thing is, this fight tonight's 20 quid pay-per-view.
That's quite a lot.
It's a lot of money. I'd rather maybe buy a takeaway and watch EastEnders or something.
Yeah, I think you're better off doing that.
And you can watch the highlights the next day.
On GBNews, yeah.
The reason we're talking about boxing, of course, is, if you didn't know, but tonight is the big fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois, set to take place at Wembley this evening. We're going to be joined next to get all the analysis by a top and Britain's youngest, actually, boxing promoter. See you in a tick.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us! feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions.
That raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return.
And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
70% of population will make a judgment on someone just by looking at them. And within 2-3 seconds, we make a decision if we like someone or not.
Really? Is it that quick?
So it's actually very, very fast. So before we have a chance to kind of express what we want to say, our subconscious mind is kind of looking for clues. So you look at someone and you look at their, for example, I don't know, the watch they're wearing, maybe the makeup. I spent literally my whole childhood learning, being absolutely mesmerized by my mom's ability to choose different style of clothing for different style personalities. British definitely take a pride in their appearance. They do spend time to look good. There is a lot of amazing British designers. For me, it was always about that feeling that I've learned from my mom's shop, how the people were living, buying certain things. And I was like, oh my God, they look happy. They've got this big smile on their face. My main objective always was to make people feel good. So now as a stylist, I help them to go through style therapy. I help them to discover colors that are good for their colors that they wear them close to their face, but also it sets the tone for their wardrobe. And then we look at the outfit formula. So it's, yeah. When I look at Ellie's dress sense, I was just thinking, OK, she likes to be polished.
I do like to be polished.
Exactly. Elegant, timeless. I look at the reference to the dress you're wearing today. It's that kind of Chanel, black and white, timeless, never go out of fashion. So for me, it's about, it's not the trends, but how you would like your personal style to be and how timeless it can be.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public.
Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Welcome back, 11:24. Ben and Ellie with you on Saturday Morning Live on GB News. Lots of lovely emails about love. Do you believe in love at first sight? I said perhaps maybe not.
And I agreed with you for once.
Yeah.
Saying, no, I don't think you can fall in love at first sight.
I reckon it is maybe...
You can fancy someone, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I think you have to... Maybe I'm wrong, again, let us know what you think, but I think you have to fancy someone first and there needs to be a physical attraction before love can develop.
But you've all proved us wrong and you're all a lot more romantic than us, it would seem. Sharon says, after meeting my husband in Italy for the first time, I came back and I told my hairdresser that I had met the man that I was going to marry and he hadn't even asked me out yet. Now we've been married for many years. We're mostly happy, apart from when he doesn't share the custard tarts equally.
Oh.
That is love, right there. I love that.
Grumpy Grandad, you said, yes, you can fall in love at first sight, but is it love or lust that grows into love? I think it's a bit of both.
Basically what you said.
Yeah, I reckon it's lust.
Yeah, and John Andrews says, love is when you hold your child for the first time or when you hold your grandchild for the first time. I bet Ben was crying.
Oh.
I bet you were as well.
Yeah, but I cry really easily anyway. I did cry when... I cried when my boys started school last week.
And I'll tell you, that's very sweet.
But that's a kind of different love, though. Parental love is different from romantic love, isn't it?
Well, do keep those views coming in, because we love reading them. gbnews.com/you'll say. I'll tell you another thing that makes you cry.
What?
Sport.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
pathetic. Anything about the Olympics, any sort of emotion, somebody winning?
Pathetic?
Anything? You are a little bit.
No, I am a bit.
You do start to cry.
Do you know what it is? I love it so... I love people achieving things and winning, and I imagine them training for years and getting up in the rain.
It goes into the backstory. It gets a bit much.
And I imagine their family in the crowds and, you know, making that phone call to the mum after winning. I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Does
boxing make you emotional?
Boxing does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when... I love boxing. I remember Pacquiao facing Floyd Mayweather back in the day. But the big news tonight is Anthony Joshua, of course, is set to challenge Daniel Dubois for the IBF World Heavyweight title at Wembley Stadium. It's being billed as a massive British blockbuster. And joining us now to discuss the knockout night ahead is Ben Shalom, who's the founder and CEO of boxing promotional company Boxer. Good morning, Ben. Thank you for joining us.
Morning.
Just before we start, you are apparently the youngest British boxing promoter in the UK.
I believe so.
How old are you?
I'm 30. Not for long. I started when I was 23 years old, so
wow.
Still been 7 years.
And how old is, say, Eddie Hearn?
He's nearly 50.
OK. Has he given you any sort of words of advice? Or
words of advice? I wouldn't say that.
Would he say, keep off my patch?
Exactly.
Yeah. OK. What about tonight, then? Anthony Joshua, Daniel Dubois, massive British bout. Who's going to win? Why is it so big?
It's huge. Look, first of all, Turki Al-Sheikh and His Excellency Riyadh season have brought all these promoters together, all the promoters, all the fighters, and created this blockbuster card. We've never seen this in British boxing. You always have one fighter over there, one fighter over there. Every fight on the card is a main event, so it would sell out his own arena, but it's all been put on one. They've extended the capacity in Wembley to a record 96,000. This is a historic event. Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois topped the bill in an all-British world title fight. But, yeah, tonight, Liam Gallagher is there. The entertainment that will just be off the scale. And I think it's one of those moments in sporting history, it really is, that people will look back on and remember.
We're seeing pictures now of Joshua and Dubois at their weigh-in. How are they both looking to you? Who do you think is going to win tonight?
Look, for me, I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. I think he's been here before. He's been at Wembley Stadium before. He had a lot of criticism after the first 2 Alexander Usyk defeats, but he's come back so strong, so ready. He's got a new trainer with Ben Davison, and he looks ready. Daniel Dubois had a great win out last time, but look, he's 26 years old. He's a lot younger. I think Anthony Joshua is just ready to make a statement tonight.
So I am a big Anthony Joshua fan as well, but correct me if I'm wrong, he's lost 3 times to Andy Ruiz, and then, was it twice to Usyk?
Twice to Usyk.
If he loses tonight, what is left of his career? Can he revive it? Is there a way back?
It will be very difficult. After he lost to Alexander Usyk the second time, remember, this is a man that's got hundreds of millions of pounds in his bank account. Yeah. I'm thinking, surely he doesn't want to do this anymore. But credit to him, he loves the sport. He's come back in a big, big way. And he wants to fight Tyson Fury. He wants to fight Alexander Usyk, who fight in December. He wants to get the winner. So he's back, but I expect him to make a statement, and it's all live on Sky Sports box office tonight.
So talking of money, how much will AJ bag tonight for getting clobbered around the face?
I'm not sure I can say exactly, but tens of millions of pounds.
Really?
It's a huge event. This is something that's going to be seen all around the world, in every single country, one of the biggest fights of the year. And Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest stars in the sport. But as I say, we have to credit, and people don't realise what's gone on with our sport. Riyadh season, they have brought things together in this sport that we've never seen before. Boxing is now trending at a #2 sport after football.
Yeah, do you think there was a risk that MMA, and particularly the UFC, was at risk of overshadowing boxing, and thanks to the Saudis, you know, they kind of revived it?
100%, and you see that in the US. Boxing was one of the most historical sports in the world. No language barrier, easy to understand in every country. UFC came along in the US, mixed martial arts, and because they were able to make the fights that the fans want to see all the time, it's gone this surge of popularity. But as I say, at the moment, boxing's having a renaissance, and it's incredible to be involved.
And what next for you as well? Because you've had this meteoric rise in the business, and you're only 30.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. We've got 2 fighters on tonight. Josh Buatsi, who won bronze at the Rio Olympics, is in an interim world title fight, a huge fight. Tyler Denny, who was fighting in leisure centres 2 years ago, became European champion. Now he's making life-changing money tonight in the chief support against Hamza Shiraz. October the 12th, we're in Riyadh, where we see Ben Whittaker, Chris Eubank Jr., Fraser Clark, who's in his rematch of March out in Riyadh. October 12th, Adam Azim back at the Copper Box in London. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, you're busy.
It's crazy at the moment. Chris Billen-Smith back in Riyadh. And this is the influence they're having on the sport. Chris Billen-Smith, another guy that came from in Bournemouth, selling out stadiums, became world champion, now goes to unify the titles in Riyadh in November. So it's a very, very busy period.
OK, and in one word, Ben, who's winning tonight?
I believe Anthony Joshua, knockout, round 5.
Bosh, there we go. Would you get clobbered round the head for 10, 20 mil, Ellie?
Oh, that's actually quite tempting.
Tempting at all.
It is
yeah,
tempting money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very good though.
I think I would.
But you definitely would. I can answer that.
Maybe not by a boxer, they'd probably kill me.
How much to get in the ring with Anthony Joshua?
Nothing. He'd kill me.
You wouldn't do it.
I know he's accused of being too much like a bodybuilder and too muscular, but I mean, regardless, that compared to me, he'd knock my block off, to say the least.
Yeah.
Ben Shalom, thank you. You're the founder and CEO of boxing promotion firm Boxer, and yeah, can't wait for the fight tonight. Not sure I'll be paying the 20 quid to watch it, but definitely looking forward to the highlights. If you did have a boxing match with anyone at GB News, who would it be?
Sophie Rooper.
Nice segue. Here's your news headlines with Sophie.
Thank you, Ellie. Anytime. Just after 11:30, and these are your latest GB News headlines. Today is day 2 of the Reform Conference in Birmingham, with speeches expected from senior members of the party. Last night, the party's leader, Nigel Farage, told supporters that he believes Reform can win the next general election, given the number of people that agree with their principles. He also explained what drove him to stand as Clacton's MP once the general election was called earlier this year.
At almost every level, we've been betrayed. And then I thought about what was happening on our streets. And frankly, I thought to myself, Britain is broken. And then I couldn't help it. Well, if Britain is broken, then logically, Britain needs reform.
Staying with politics now, and Angela Rayner has announced plans to make irreversible changes to devolution laws across the entire north of England. Speaking ahead of her speech at the Labour Party conference tomorrow, the Deputy PM has committed to handing powers back to areas such as Lancashire, Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire. She also said that the new government will harness potential in the economy in order to allow innovation and growth to bloom in every part of the country. This year marks the 80th anniversary of Operation Market Garden and the Battle of Arnhem. Celebrations in the Netherlands this weekend will commemorate 80 years since 1900 Allied troops parachuted into the then-occupied country with the aim of recapturing the bridges of Arnhem. Throughout the morning, the contemporary equivalents of those men are recreating the drop at Ginkle Heath in Ada, jumping from an aircraft into the same place our troops would have landed 8 decades ago. And tonight, Anthony Joshua will challenge Daniel Dubois for the IBF World Heavyweight title at a sold-out Wembley Stadium. The all-British fight will see Joshua try to take the title from Dubois in an attempt to join the likes of Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield by becoming a 3-time World Heavyweight champion. Things remained relatively calm at the weigh-in yesterday, although both fighters have said they will do whatever it takes to win. Those are your latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Sophie Rieper. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there. There's a bit of a mixed fortunes in terms of our weather this weekend, depending on exactly where you are located in the UK, all due to 2 pressure systems that are affecting different areas. We've got high pressure in the north, close to Iceland, affecting areas of Scotland, but it's low pressure in the south that is starting to feed in some occluded frontal systems, and we are going to see some showers developing over the course of the day. Particular focus for parts of Wales, central, southwestern areas of England. There is a thunderstorm warning in force because some of those showers could be quite thundery and heavy, with the risk of some hail and lightning strikes in there as well. If you manage to avoid those showers, though, there will be some quite decent sunny spells across southern areas as well, climbing to highs of 25 degrees Celsius, feeling pleasantly warm in here. Further towards the north, though, there's a bit of an east-west split. Parts of eastern coastal areas of Scotland and down into northeast England as well are going to be pretty cloudy throughout much of today, and that is going to make it feel quite cool in places. Temperatures not seeing much higher than 11 or 12 degrees Celsius here, but parts of northwest Scotland seeing a lot of sunshine, climbing towards 20 degrees Celsius here, and some quite decent sunny spells for Northern Ireland into the afternoon as well. There are those showers then across parts of Wales as we head into the evening, but we do get a second pulse of thundery rain arriving as we head into the overnight period, spreading across the Channel Islands, and then it will be moving into southern areas of England later on to the second half of the night. Again, some heavy pulses of rain are possible. It will cause some travel disruption, and so the thunderstorm warning changes into a bit more of a rain warning as we head into Sunday. A mild night for many of us, temperatures holding up around 14 to 16 degrees Celsius, but chillier and underneath those rural skies of northwest Scotland. For much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, though, it is a relatively similar day on Sunday. Again, the best of the sunshine will be further towards the west, with that cloud filtering in across the east. But for Wales and central southern areas of England, again, we do have those heavy pulses of rain. Some thunderstorms developing in times, and it is going to feel quite humid. And amongst all of that, temperatures again climbing to just around 20-21 degrees Celsius. Things turn cooler, though, as we head into the new working week, but still remaining relatively unsettled. Bye-bye.
This Monday, the king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamon Holmes, returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back, 11:38. Ben and Eddie with you on Saturday Morning Live, and we're also joined by Steph Tetchy with the latest dose of showbiz news. Steph.
Hi.
Hey. I do.
Okay. Should we start with something very serious?
Yeah.
P. Diddy.
Yes, he hasn't been able to buy himself out of jail. He tried to get out of jail earlier this week. He was arrested for a host of cases, including racketeering, sex trafficking, drug possession. They've literally piled on the cases against P. Diddy. Over the past few months, he's had numerous lawsuits over claims of sexual assault, but the authorities in LA and New York, they finally managed to pin him down. He tried to set a bail at $37.8 million, which was refused twice this week because they said that they don't trust that he will come out and not threaten the witnesses, because he has a long history of that. People who've brought cases against him, he's tried to either pay them off, but this time they mean business. So he's been placed on suicide watch because, as you can imagine, it's been a big fall from grace for one of the biggest moguls in the music industry, now potentially facing life behind bars.
So Steph, just remind us what he's been accused of doing.
There is. Oh gosh. Well, he's been basically locked up for sex trafficking, drug possession and firearms offences, but they also raided his properties both in New York and Miami, and bizarrely they found 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. So it's quite sordid. He used to have these sex parties called freak-offs, and apparently this is where he involved male prostitutes and female sex workers to basically please him, and I don't even want to talk about it.
He's accused, I think, of even recording some of these parties, using them to blackmail people. It's very, very
And he's got away with it for many, many years. So now I feel like it's officially going to court now, and he's not going to be seeing the light of day. But as you can imagine, for a celebrity like himself, he's lost all his glory, all the luxuries he's enjoyed, and we won't be seeing him in public until his trial, and the date has not been set. So he will be behind bars for quite a while.
OK, well, watch this space. That's the story, isn't it? Should we talk about happier things?
Yes.
Strictly.
Yes.
Back tonight, officially.
Yes, officially. This is going to be the first live show. Last week we saw the launch show, but this week we're going to see the 15 contestants. We're going to see what they've learnt so far over the past few weeks in rehearsals. So there's going to be some things for people to look out for. Chris McCausland, he's going to be the show's first blind contestant, and he's going to be performing the cha-cha-cha. So that will be quite interesting to see how he can pull that off. We also see the return of Amy Dowden. She's now in readmission from cancer, so she's making a return back to the show. But there's obviously been a criticism about a few people such as JB Gill and also Tasha Guri from Love Island, who are already trained dancers. So
I don't think that's fair, Steph. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, I don't think it is, actually. In hindsight, I'm thinking, like, you've got people who were novices on the show, and these two will already have they were able to pick up the techniques quite quickly.
I mean, JB Gill and Tash Guri are both incredible dancers, and all you have to do is one look at their social media and you can tell that they're trained, they're pretty much professional themselves. And then you're up against people who are just learning their steps. Well, it doesn't seem fair.
I think it's reflected in the votes, actually, because I think the public know that, and I think when it comes to voting, I think JB will go far and I think Tasha will go far, but when it actually comes to the final, you always get those wild cards. You get those people who are complete novices to dancing and they make it to the final because they've shown that dedication and that they can pick up when it comes to dancing.
Yeah, I want to see people tripping over themselves and getting dropped on lifts and stuff like that. How's Paul Merson getting on, Merce?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how he is. Where is he? He is... Oh, I can't see him. He's gone now. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does. But one thing for sure, I don't think there'll be no Strictly Cursed this season because, obviously, they've had professionals, welfare producers in that's been watching them during rehearsals. So I doubt there's any room for any love affairs to start during this season.
Again, that was the best bit as well, wasn't it?
Yeah?
No.
Well, you never know. Love might prevail.
You never know. We're also going to talk about Lily Allen.
Yeah, she's been causing headlines with her podcast over the past few weeks, months. Now she's come out... I know, it's just like, Lily, stop it. But she's just come out now and she says that she had children for the wrong reason. She's got two daughters. One is 11, one is 12. And she said that she's only had children because she felt like it was the only way to take the pressure of fame from her. And she also said that she also felt like she had this need to fill in the gap for unconditional love. So she's put that out there, and I'm sorry, like, you've got two daughters who are quite young. The media have now made a big fuss about this, and I just think it's unfair for her to put her daughters out there in the public like this.
And they're going to listen to that.
And I think any parent, you know, even if you think those things, you wouldn't say it outwardly. I think, you know, a lot of mothers do think, oh, my gosh, would I have had children? But I think when you're in the limelight, it's quite damaging to your children to do that kind of stuff.
Like, just some people shouldn't have a podcast.
Yeah, I don't think she should. I think she should, but...
Did you catch that story a few weeks ago, Lily Allen's
about the dog?
About the dog.
Yeah.
She handed the dog back...
To the charity shelter, yeah.
To the charity.
Yeah.
The dog had eaten the passport.
Yeah. And I just don't think this podcast is doing her any favours. And I think, you know, you can talk about anything you want, but I think to throw your children under the bus, it's very bad.
Is she still selling her feet pictures on
She is. She's making a lot of money on OnlyFans.
Really?
Yeah, she is.
What, from feet pics?
Yeah, people on OnlyFans, they've got different fetishes, so feet is one of them. Maybe we're in the wrong profession, guys.
Well, maybe she should be sticking to feet pictures rather than podcasts.
Yeah,
maybe that's the way forward.
Definitely.
How damaging do you think all of these revelations are, Steph? Do you think that people are just kind of laughing and joking?
No, I think people are taking it quite seriously. I think especially when you have people out there who can't have children naturally, and to be saying comments like that, it's also, you have to think about the welfare of your children here. They go to school, they're around other young children, and that's like, could be a case for teasing or bullying in the thing, but I won't be surprised. She'll probably get signed up for a second season of her podcast because she's given the BBC what they want.
Well, it's headlines, isn't it?
It is.
In the news. Thanks, Steph. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
OK, still to come. I'm not, as you know, a massive reality TV fan, but I do enjoy whenever I'm fleeting into the living room and my wife is watching it. Married at First Sight.
That means you watch it all the time.
Now and then.
Yeah.
I don't turn it on. I just sit down and watch it when it's on. But we're going to be joined by former Married at First Sight and former Miss Great Britain, actually, April Banbury, to talk us about the new upcoming season. Back in a tick.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But let's get stuck in. Prince Harry, he's consulted former aides about a possible partial return to the UK as he seeks to repair his public image, that is according to the Daily Mail.
Who wants him? I'm sorry. This is, of course, he's got his book Spare.
Yeah,
The paperback comes out later this year. Now, he's not updating it, but he'll want to promote it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says he's not doing any interviews, but we're talking about him now, we're talking about Spare.
Yeah.
And is he going to come back with his wife? What about the children? Because apparently it's not safe for his wife and children in this country, according to Harry, even though he took his wife to Colombia, which is much less safe than Britain, in my view.
It's absurd. Anyway, he was able to attend his uncle's funeral quite easily.
He did.
Nobody knew he was coming. He said he wasn't, and then he did. And he was perfectly safe.
And he would have had the same security as every other member of the royal family who attended that event.
Yeah.
But, of course, he didn't speak to his brother at the funeral.
No, he wouldn't, would he?
So if he's trying to fix it, honestly, a funeral is where you should put all differences aside because it's not about you, it's about respect to the person, the family of the person who's gone, which was his uncle. It was his... Diana's sister's husband had died. So, yet they didn't speak. They didn't speak in the church, they didn't speak when they left the church. Incredible, isn't it?
It's awful because that moment is when you realise that we are all mortal. And at that point, all other things should transcend that, but not...
Well, this move is being branded as Operation Bring Harry In From the Cold, because apparently he's a bit fed up with his life in Montecito. Does that mean with his wife?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Apparently he's dissatisfied with advice from his American-based image expert.
Well, they've had about 10 of them, haven't they? They're on to their number 11.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Back to Saturday Morning Live. Loads of you getting in touch to our question, which was, do you believe in love at first sight? Does it really exist? This is from Stephanie, who says, Dear Ellie and Ben, my husband and I met 43 years ago in a public house in Norfolk, and we have been together ever since. That's despite people saying that it would not last. We moved in together after 3 weeks. We're still together 43 years on.
It's nice to hear people meeting in pubs and nightclubs these days, because it's all online now, isn't it? I met my wife in a pub.
Did you? And was it love at first sight?
I played her I was 20, I played her my DJ mix.
Oh,
and I thought, listen to this.
Why
and
doesn't that
she was
surprise
politely
me?
nodding along.
Oh, no.
Probably thought I was a bit of a...
She deserves a medal, doesn't she? This one's made me laugh. Doesn't have a name on it, though. Hello, GB News. Love at first sight. I fall in love every time I walk into a coffee shop at the services. They display all of those little cakes. They look pure filthy. Well, that's true. And James says, we have both been widowed for about 10 years, and I tried online dating. She had tried several dates and given up. She went back on to close her account and came across a message from you, I assume, James. She took a chance. Long story short, we're going on 16 years later. Here we are.
Lots of our viewers with long-term relationships, isn't there? You know, sort of 20 years, 30 years.
Very
good stuff.
Very good. Do keep your stories coming in, gbnews.com/yoursay. But why are we talking about love at first sight, you might be asking? That's because Married at First Sight UK is officially back. The reality TV show that's taken the nation by storm. It's in its 9th season, would you believe, on E4.
Wow, 9 seasons. I remember the early days.
Yeah, you're actually a big fan.
I am, yeah. The reality TV series sees experts pairing together couples who meet for the first time on their wedding day. So they don't know who they are.
It's bonkers.
They turn up, they get ready, and they turn up at the altar, and they meet their husband or wife for the very first time. And then the programme basically follows their marriage journey. Telling us more about the new series and her own experience on Married at First Sight is designer and former star of the series, April Banbury. Good morning, April.
Morning. April.
Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
OK, new series on the way. Does it evoke memories of your time on the show? Would you do it again?
It absolutely brings back memories, and I'm probably going to say no. no, I wouldn't do it again because marrying a stranger is very nerve-wracking, like very, very nerve-wracking.
And it's all legit, isn't it? It's not just made up for the the audience. You've never met them before. You turn up to the altar.
Yeah, it's funny you actually should ask me that question because so many people always ask me that. They're like, oh, surely you must have known something about the person, you know, met them before.
Glance at photo.
No, absolutely nothing. Like, you know nothing. You don't even know their hair colour at this point. So you literally just meet them at the end of the altar and then that's it.
Nerve-wracking, I can imagine.
Okay, I didn't know whether I was going to be sick, whether I was going to cry, whether I was going to faint. I was like...
And for people who haven't watched it before, what do the producers and the experts match you on?
So there's a number of things. I mean, it's quite an intense process in the build-up. You're really talking about, like, your wants, your things that you want and you don't want. And I feel like they kind of want to match you with someone that you do want, but also want to give you a chance to maybe open yourself up to something that you're not used to. Because obviously you're doing something wrong, which is why you're on the show and you're single, you know? So it's like you have a deal breaker. You know, what would be your deal breaker, which would be an absolute no.
What was your deal breaker?
Mine was someone who didn't have kids.
OK, you didn't want anybody with children?
No, only because I'm not sure that I want children myself, so I thought it would just be easier that way. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
OK. And what year were you on? What series?
I was on, oh my goodness, so a couple of years ago now.
And what's happened to you since then? You mentioned you'd had a bit of an accident since then.
I did. This is why I swear to God I'm doomed to be single forever because I was...
don't say that!
I won't put that into the universe, actually. I take that back. I was a bridal stylist and designer, and with that I would lift heavy wedding dresses. They're like 15, 20 kg all day, every day. And my spine took a toll. It took a toll on my spine, and I actually ended up prolapsing. My L5-S1 disc in my spine. I had to learn to walk again. I'm still in recovery a year later. It's like kind of like a how long is a piece of string kind of thing. But it really like...
How's that affected your dating game?
Oh my God, massively. Because I'm a heels girl and I can't wear heels now. I've just got to wear these ugly platforms everywhere I go. And trainers are like... But yeah, obviously I hadn't been dating since the show anyway. But then when I was like, oh, I might be ready, obviously physically I couldn't go anywhere or do anything.
So are you getting blokes to kind of like carry you into bars and stuff?
Yeah, that's it. If you can't give me a piggyback, I'm sorry, we can't go on a date. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you.
You're certainly looking amazing.
Thank you.
Your experience on the show, reflecting on it now, do you think that has helped or hindered your dating life? Because, spoiler alert, you're not still married, are you?
No, I'm very single. Very, very single. I feel like it does make it a little bit more difficult. Not to be like, oh, we're famous or whatever, but people do recognise you. You are a bit of a known face. So people that I have spoken to in the past pretend that they like haven't seen the show or don't watch it, and then they'll come out with, oh, can I just get a selfie like for my mum because like she knows everything about you, she really likes you, she's really excited that I'm on this date with you, kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, you're not getting to know me for me, you're just getting to know me because your mum really liked watching me on the show. Like, so it's kind of difficult in that respect, but.
So the new series has started on E4 this Monday, but I'm just going to say as well, do you watch the Aussie version?
I used to until I was on Maths,
well.
and now I can't watch it. It's
just too many
triggers
too much for you.
Exactly, you just know what goes on, and it's just like,
Yeah.
Okay.
That must have been such a terrifying experience for you, going from marrying a stranger, but then also living with them, because there's that whole element, isn't there?
It's so intense. It's not only like obviously living with a stranger, but it's like you're in an apartment with a bunch of other couples that you don't know. Like, you really don't know anyone, and it can be quite lonely at times. Like, luckily, the whole team behind the scenes were
brilliant.
Thank you for joining us, and good luck in your hunt.
Thank you,
Mr. Right.
Man.
Thank you.
April, lovely to meet you, and thank you for joining us on Saturday Morning Live today.
Yep, see you again next week. Dawn Neesom's next. Have a lovely weekend.
Very good.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. There's a bit of a mixed fortunes in terms of our weather this weekend, depending on exactly where you are located in the UK, all due to two pressure systems that are affecting different areas. We've got high pressure in the north, close to Iceland, affecting areas of Scotland, but it's low pressure in the south that is starting to feed in some occluded frontal systems, and we are going to see some showers developing over the course of the day. Particular focus for parts of Wales, central, southwestern areas of England. There is a thunderstorm warning in force because some of those showers could be quite thundery and heavy, with the risk of some hail and lightning strikes in there as well. If you manage to avoid those showers, though, there will be some quite decent sunny spells across southern areas as well, climbing to highs of 25 degrees Celsius, feeling pleasantly warm in here. Further towards the north, though, is a bit of an east-west split. Parts of eastern coastal areas of Scotland and down into northeast England as well are going to be pretty cloudy throughout much of today, and that is going to make it feel quite cool in places. Temperatures not seeing much higher than 11 or 12 degrees Celsius here, but parts of northwest Scotland seeing a lot of sunshine, climbing towards 20 degrees Celsius here, and some quite decent sunny spells for Northern Ireland into the afternoon as well. There are those showers then across parts of Wales as we head into the evening, but we do get a second pulse of thundery rain arriving as we head into the overnight period, spreading across the Channel Islands, and then it will be moving into southern areas of England later on during the second half of the night. Again, some heavy pulses of rain are possible. It will cause some travel disruption, and so the thunderstorm warning changes into a bit more of a rain warning as we head into Sunday. A mild night for many of us, temperatures holding up around 14 to 16 degrees Celsius, but chillier underneath those rural skies of northwest Scotland. For much of Scotland and Northern Ireland, though, it is a relatively similar day on Sunday. Again, the best of the sunshine will be further towards the west, with that cloud filtering in across the east. But for Wales and central southern areas of England, again, we do have those heavy pulses of rain. Some thunderstorms developing in times, and it is going to feel quite humid in amongst all of that. Temperatures, again, climbing to just around 20-21 degrees Celsius. Things turn cooler, though, as we head into the new working week, but still remaining relatively unsettled. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the good luck.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon. Hello out there. It is midday on Saturday,